Okay, so one thing I would like an answer to is there a way we can stop playing so much bad sounding stuff in jazz guitar lessons and practice sessions? So by bad sounding stuff, I mean stuff like this. I don't know about you, but I never hear anybody actually good using any of that stuff. So, now we know the reason. The reason why we do it is because we want to learn arpeggios, we want to learn how the chords move, we want to learn all about theory, back cycling chord progressions, 2-5-1s, all that kind of stuff. Right, let's just pretend for a second that none of that stuff is necessary to play music. This is a bit of a thought experiment. Let's just put that over there. Right, so let me compare the way we teach jazz to the way we teach other styles of guitar playing. So if you go to your first rock guitar lesson, if you've never played before, they might teach you something like this. Okay, or maybe, you know, and later on, you know, that's what I teach. I don't know about you. Simple things to play that sound cool, right? They sound like songs. Even if you can't play the whole song, you can play a bit of it. So, if we're learning a language, we learn a few phrases first, don't we, that we can use, like, you know, how do I get to the station? Can I have a beer, please? That kind of thing. Right, so why do we start off by teaching people what a back cycling chord progression is in jazz? It's not music. I'm not saying it's not important in the long run. It might help you understand how, you know, to read chord charts, for instance. But why do we do this? And I'd be interested to know if you've got some answers as to why, in broader sense, other than the reasons I've already given, but also how we can avoid doing that. And this interests me because I think there's been some really great jazz guitarists who haven't started this way. And I think now it's common to start this way, and I'm sort of thinking, maybe we should start by actually playing music. So, like, maybe obviously listening to solos and songs, you know, and trying to work them out by ear is a big deal. Perhaps I could give people a few jazz guitar licks, like, or, you know, things that I actually use, right? Maybe I can do that. But on the other hand, it's like, well, that's great, you know, licks are cool, but can we have a more general concept of things so that when people listen to somebody like Wes Montgomery, they're just going, I can't work out what's going on here. And this takes me back to my sort of narrative idea. So if you tell somebody it's a 2-5-1, 2-5-1, for me, this has two problems. First thing is it's only one case of a whole slew of different chord progressions that do pretty much the same thing. And the second thing is it's numbers, and who wants to know about numbers? I came here to play music, not to do the numbers. So is there another way of teaching it? And I have this idea that, like, maybe you can think about, you know, fiction or narrative or drama. So we have the 3-act structure that people use to write, you know, all sorts of things, narratives, you know, screenwriters, you know, novelists, that kind of thing. The idea is, you know, and any pot boiler you're likely to pick up, you know, off the shelf has a 3-act structure of a beginning, a middle, and an end. And people don't want too much beginning. Oh no, too much beginning. That's like too much exposition. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. So a good writer doesn't have too much exposition. They kind of teach you things about the character and the situation, you know, as they go along. Okay, do you want much ending? Well, not really. I mean, you want to have a sense of resolution, but maybe, I mean, if it's a pot boiler or, you know, episodic TV or something, you might want a little bit of a, you know, a hook into the next episode, you know, or something left unresolved, or maybe most of the threads are left resolved, but there's a, you know, something hanging, you know, until the very end, you know. And what about the middle? Well, the middle is where all the fun happens, right? Isn't it? It's conflict and it's drama and it's all this cool stuff happening. You know, I'm thinking here very much of a kind of conventional sort of narrative, adventure narrative, you know, where there's sort of explosions and escapes and all the rest of it. But, you know, that could be something to do with a much more character-based novel. Perhaps characters come into conflict and it's all very psychological, you know. But something has to happen in the middle, otherwise it's not a story, is it? You know. So, okay, how can we apply this to music? Well, you know, for instance, in the 251 we have the setup, which is, in this case an A minor 7 chord, say, going to some kind of resolution point. Okay. So how do we have stuff going on in the middle? We have some kind of tension chord. You know, like that, for instance. What tension chords are good? Well, practically any of them. They all have a thing, right? So one way you can do that is just by joining the chords together. So we're going from this one to that one. So maybe, okay, to start join up the dots. Okay, maybe we'll go to that note early. Okay, well maybe maybe we'll move the bass line as well. Bass line's kind of important, isn't it? So maybe we'll go. That sounds better. But everything's moving in the same direction, so maybe we can have some fun by keeping this top note the same. Maybe we could go in opposite directions. Okay, maybe maybe I'm bored of that. Maybe I want to do something else. Maybe let's have a look at this. Well, that's the same sort of thing. Going to that. Maybe you happen to know that's a G major chord of some kind. Maybe you happen to know that's an A minor chord of some kind. Maybe not. Maybe you just worked it out by ear. What you definitely don't need to know is what that's called. That's a passing chord. In the middle voices. Can't remember what I played now. What did I play? This. Okay, fifths on top. No, this. Well, you wouldn't know that was a fifth, but that's what's going on top. What's going on underneath? Get that little movement at the bottom. You could even play that. You've got a G on the bottom, right? Okay, that's nice. In the middle, we have this. Can we put that over the G of the last chord? That has to go down, right? Using your ears. Cool. Right, can we turn that into a line? Sounds pretty good to me. Let's try it with the backing track. Try with the other foot. Okay, that sounds cool. So, beginning, middle, but maybe we can have more middle, you know, more dot to dot. Maybe that is a little bit middly. We can resolve it there. Maybe we'll have a little bit more, maybe we can have a bit of middle before the start. So maybe we can start in media res, right? Like Star Wars, when you see the big spaceship chasing a little spaceship. Something's going on. Oh, what's going on? Stuff's going on. Okay, what are the characters? Oh, okay. And, you know, like, so, you know, it doesn't necessarily start with a nice sort of everybody's happy, you know, setup. It starts with something going on. Homer did that in the Iliad. Right, so, okay, so maybe this. Maybe you could start like that. Maybe. See what I mean? So, you know, obviously this goes along with chord melodies. So perhaps if I have the end of a song which has the melody going, this happens in a lot of standards. Maybe I go, because it fits the chords, you know? And the melody, sorry, because it fits the melody. Maybe that's too saccharine of a sweet ending. Maybe you need something a little bit more There's a hint of sadness or, something reflective about that chord. So like that kind of emotional connection is kind of more interesting to me, and I suspect it might be more interesting to a lot of beginners than talking about numbers. Plus you can see how it works on the neck really easily. Here's another thing you can do. If you're playing, for instance, a B-flat blues, oh, what did I do there? Well, maybe I can play around E-flat 7. Maybe I've got some stuff to play on that. I also have some stuff to play on that chord. Okay. Okay. Maybe if I'm going the other way, that's also another way of getting into the E-flat 7. So I go. This thing again, maybe. Okay, so you don't have to think about what the chords are called. Just think about the way they're sounding and the way that you can use them to tell a story and the way that you can use them to back a melody up.